No matter what kind of climates, landscapes, sceneries, or conditions you enjoy, there is probably a place somewhere on Earth that will meet your needs, environmentally speaking. And while one Canadian forest may not look much different from another, and one chunk of desert in Africa may not look different from another, when you take it as a whole, the world is full of diverse and interesting places. Nestled in amongst the normal everyday ones are some of the most extreme places that you could ever hope to visit. Here's a list of the most extreme environments on Earth. Number 9. Hottest Place. Back in August 2020, Death Valley, California hit a record high temperature of 130 degrees Fahrenheit. That counts as the single hottest global temperature ever recorded by the World Meteorological Organization. Of course, there is some anecdotal evidence of hotter days in other parts of the world, including Death Valley itself, which supposedly got to 134 degrees back in 1913. But when we are using modern reliable methods of temperature measurements, the 2020 mark of 130 degrees takes the cake. What makes Death Valley the winner? Well, they don't call it Death Valley for nothing. The valley gets less than 2 inches of rainfall per year and sitting 282 feet below sea level surrounded by mountain ranges, it's essentially just a big bowl to absorb the rays of the sun. Before we continue, please subscribe to Rite Entertainment for more interesting places on Earth. Number 8. Coldest Place. If the opposite side of the spectrum is more your speed and you're looking for the coldest place on Earth, you may be tempted to think of the Arctic reaches of Canada or maybe Russia. And while Canada's record low temperature was negative 62.8 degrees Celsius and Russia's coldest temperature was negative 67.7 degrees Celsius, the crown for the absolute coldest place on Earth is way down south in Antarctica. In 1983, at Vostok Station in Antarctica, the deadly low temperature of negative 89.2 degrees Celsius was measured. In 2010, satellites readings indicated that another location very close to Vostok Station called Dome Fuji measured negative 93.22 degrees Celsius. The reason there is a little contention between the two is because Vostok's temperature was a measurement of the local air, while Dome Fuji measurement was actually of the surface ice itself. But between the two, you can rest assured that you won't find anywhere colder in the world. It's estimated that you could probably survive for about 3 minutes in temperatures that cold. Number 7. Driest Place. There are plenty of deserts around the world, and many of them are still hospitable enough to be habitable if some preparations are made. But if you are looking for the absolute driest place in the world, then you need to head to the Atacama Desert in Chile. There is a corner of this desert known as Arica up in the north that holds the record of the longest dry streak in the world after going 173 months with no rain at all. In 2015, El Niño brought with it the heaviest rain the desert had seen in years, 0.96 inches of rain to be exact. Number 6. Wetst Place. Places like Seattle and London are famous for having to endure lots of mist and rain over the course of a year. If you're not a fan of damp climate, you probably wouldn't adapt very well to either of these places. And you especially wouldn't last long in Mawsynram, India, which holds the title to the wettest place on Earth. Surrounded by mountainous terrain that helps funnel annual monsoon winds, Mawsynram endures about 467 inches of rain every year. For comparison, Seattle's annual rainfall is about 30 inches and London gets around to 23 inches of rain per year. Even the Amazon rainforest gets only 80 inches of rain per year. Amazingly enough, Despite these wet conditions, people do still live there. They've just adapted to the climate and make covers out of reeds for their heads while they work in the fields. Number 5. Steepest Cliff. Not many people head up to Baffin Island in Canada because it's remote, cold, and extremely inhospitable. But it is home to a national park called Auuatuk, which is riddled with cliffs and mountains, including one known as Mount Thor. Mount Thor is the steepest cliff in the world. The west face of the mountain is the longest vertical drop on Earth at 4,101 feet straight down. And if you want to be precise, it's technically not straight down. It's even steeper than that because the angle is a 105 degrees overhang. Numerous climbers failed to get to the top of the cliff until a four-man team of Americans managed to master it back in 1985. It took 33 days. Number 4. Hottest water. If you head down to a certain point deep in the Atlantic Ocean, you'll find a pair of black smokers known as Two Boats and Sisters Peak. Black smokers look a bit like underwater volcanoes, and they belch water as well as various other chemicals from deep in the Earth's core. The water that comes out of the smokers is so hot it actually exists in a state that you won't find anywhere else in the world. Remember, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius and becomes a gas. But when you have extreme temperature and extreme pressure like you'll find at the bottom of the ocean, what you get is gas and liquid existing simultaneously in what they called a supercritical fluid that makes the water denser than vapor but lighter than liquid water. The water that comes out of these two vents is around 407 degrees Celsius and has gotten up to 464 degrees Celsius. It's also heavily saturated with all kinds of elements ranging from gold, copper, and sulfur. Number 3. Most electric. Few natural phenomena are more impressive to watch than a lightning storm. Most of us only experience one a few times a year at best. But if you head to Venezuela at a place called Lake Maracaibo, then you're going to experience what some people call the everlasting storm. Lake Maracaibo is fed by the Catatumbo River. Where these two bodies of water meet, you can see a nearly endless display of lightning that lasts most of the year. There are an average of 260 storm days per year at this location, and any given storm can produce literally thousands of lightning strikes every single hour. At night, you can watch lightning flash for 9 straight hours. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, Lake Maracaibo features 250 lightning flashes per square kilometer every year. You'll get the least amount of lightning during the dry season in January, but it will peak in October when 28 lightning strikes occur every 60 seconds. Number 2. Deepest Place. Of all the places that you can go in the world, the hardest to get to is arguably the deepest place. More people have walked on the moon than have visited the bottom of Challenger Deep, the lowest point in the ocean, 35,814 feet below sea level. The first people who made it there had to go down in a specially designed submarine that had 5-inch thick steel walls. It took 5 hours to travel the whole 7-mile journey to the bottom. Believe it or not, fish still exist at that depth, even though the pressure is 8 tons per square inch. That's about 1,000 times more pressure than you'll get at sea level. Number 1. Most toxic. The most toxic place in the world is Agbogbloshie, Ghana. About 80,000 people live in and around the slums here, which are heavily polluted by electronic waste. such as things like old phones, computers, and other pieces of technology. While at first it doesn't seem like that kind of waste should be toxic, you have to consider what goes into making modern electronics, and then you have to consider what the people who live here do with that waste. Many locals make a living by harvesting valuable metals from waste materials. That requires not just breaking into plastic cases, but extracting the metals through dangerous means. Any given day, you'll see a number of fires from people who are attempting to extract metals from wires and circuit boards. This ends up releasing toxic byproducts like brominated dioxin and furans into the environment. Samples from eggs of free-range chickens who graze that area have been found to contain staggeringly high levels of chemicals that have actually been outlawed around the world. If you were to eat one of those eggs, you would get a dose of chlorinated dioxin that is 220 times higher than what is considered safe. Thank you for watching. Please like and share with a family member or friend. Don't forget to leave us a comment and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to keep you updated. Goodbye.